lie. Don't say anything.
Okay.
No one's watching.
No one's watching.
No one.
I can watch.
Then the first person's gonna be Anki.
He was like, hi. And then Ash was like, I'm guessing this is Zoe or Zoe. And he's like, no, this is Jackson.
No, this is Lily. Spencer's watching. Spencer's
Spencer.
always watching.
Hey, Spencer.
I zoomed in on her face.
Okay, someone else was watching, so. Oh, someone left.
It was Spencer. It was probably Spencer.
Should I sit up here or should I go up there?
Can you tell Lily we're not going to the frolic?
What can't we say? Shut up. I hate it.
I want Spencer to acknowledge me.
To acknowledge you. Tell him.
Spencer, acknowledge me, please. He's not going.
He's like, who is this kid?
He's like, who's that?
All right, everyone.
Do you need this?
Not as full as the last one, but that's fine. We got room to spread out and all that. So this is the second showing of the Speech Team Showcase. We've got 5 performances for you tonight. Just a few of the events, 5 of them. That of the 80 or so will probably take to the national tournament in the spring. So hopefully you enjoy these, and I'll try to introduce them to you as to what they are and who the performers are as we go. Some housekeeping notes. You have, in order to get attendance for this, you have a sheet of paper inside your program. If you have me for large lecture, do not put my name on that. Put your small section instructor. Okay? Even though I said that last time, some people still put store, right? So depending on who your small section instructor is, put their name, because I'm going to get it to them in their mailbox. If you happen to have multiple instructors, you have me for class and someone else, go ahead and put both persons' names, or your small section instructor, right? But if you have Professor Moore and Coker, right, go ahead and put both of them, and I'll make sure to Xerox them and send them to them. Any questions on how we're going to do attendance? Okay, circle the performance you like best, tell us why, put your name, make sure it's legible, right, and then hand it to the individuals on the way out, and then I'll make sure to get those to the correct instructors. All right, so we're going to go ahead and get started. Again, we'll be out of here within the hour. Our first performance is going to be a prose interpretation. It is a cutting from a short story. She's going to use this book that has the piece of literature in it, but it is over memorized. Why she holds the book, don't ask. It's just the rules. So for this event at competition, you have to have this manuscript book. It's just the way it goes. So doing a prose interpretation based off of a short story is going to be senior from Wheaton, Illinois, Ms. Monica LaBelle.
Yeah. Come on, little jerk.
All I had to do was not date him. We could go on forever like this, hanging out, having sex, mixing contempt with flirtation, as long as I didn't succumb to the drive to merge emotionally. You know, I felt it could be done because he was such a jerk. There was this built-in barrier. I had just gone outside to wait for him. I usually waited on the patio for him to whistle at the side gate because for some reason he didn't like to use the front door. He was taking longer than usual when I heard a noise. It was Fran, my 80-something-year-old recluse neighbor. She was carrying something bulky, made of wire. She set it down and then quickly headed back upstairs. And I went to investigate. It was this white wire cage with 2 rats and a note tagged, "They're females. Please take. Do not contact me regarding this, exclamation point, exclamation point, exclamation point. Thank you." Their fur was perfectly clean and white. Well, except for the black that covered their face and trailed down their spine. I kind of wanted that. just as I heard Mark whistling. A 2018 Daily Beast article, The War Against Loneliness, suggests that we are in the midst of a loneliness epidemic. In fact, millennials across the globe are creating co-living organizations to combat the issue. UK Prime Minister Theresa May just announced a loneliness minister, and Australia has organized a coalition to end loneliness. And according to The Atlantic of August 8, 2018, a recent survey found that nearly half of respondents reported feeling alone or isolated. And Generation Z, our generation, was loneliest of all. But instead of waging war and taking aim to make loneliness go away, we must first come to terms and realize that loneliness is a perfectly normal part of life. Enough for Me, by Becca Kroc. I made Mark carry the cage inside. I cleared off some room on the dresser as he reached in and tried to get the rats out, but the rats didn't emerge. You know, I started to wonder, why had she given them up? Was she okay? Were the rats okay? Well, you know, I couldn't ask Fran because it was clear that she wanted to be left alone! Exclamation point. You know, I worried I didn't even know their names, but Mark said that he'd take care of it and to not talk anymore, to get into bed. The next morning, Mark named the rats Heaven and Earth because of a dream he had that he wouldn't tell me about. Why would you expect me to be interested in your dreams when they only mean anything to you? So I asked him which one was which, and he just shrugged. He was dozing off again. There was something arresting about him that just made people pay attention. I wasn't used to feeling particularly attractive, but I guess there was something he liked about me too. I ran my hand down his side, and all he did in response was reply that the rat smelled. So I lied there and decided that the one who spent all her time on the wheel would be named Earth, and the one who spent all her time on the upper level would be named Heaven. It really only took a week for them to start trusting me, and then it seemed like all of a sudden that they liked me. Well, Heaven liked me. Earth liked escaping from her cage and chewing up my lamp cord. So one day I went out and bought a bunch of PVC pipes so that I could build her this system of tunnels. I didn't really know where I'd put the tunnels because I lived in a studio, so it was kind of small. But meanwhile, Heaven asked nothing of me. She just liked to ride around on my shoulder and sometimes even the hood of my sweater. I tried not to choose favorites, but Heaven needed me, and Earth didn't. Mark never chose a favorite either. He couldn't tolerate the squeaking of their wheel or the clicking of their nails. Plus, the system of pipes ate into what for him was critical real estate at the end of the bed. Kind of put a damper on the whole acquaintances with benefits situation. Now there was another girl, Layla. This was to be expected because we were not and never would be dating. Of course, I was working to feel open-minded about the whole thing, and then one night he texted to see if I was free. He was trying to set up this threesome. He said it was Layla's idea. You can finally be bisexual, he said. He never believed that I was already bisexual because I wasn't sleeping with anybody besides him. But I got up, shaved my legs, splashed some cold water on my face, and put on a little makeup. But before I left, I reached into the cage and drew out Heaven and cupped her in my hands. As I stroked her, she began to purr. I recently learned that they do this when you scratch them behind the ears or under the chin. Kind of like a quiet cat. Maybe I would just stay here for the night. But I decided against it, and before I left, I threw an avocado pit in the cage for the girls to gnaw. Mark poured a lot of whiskey and told story after story about himself until I couldn't take it anymore and I kissed Layla. Awkwardly, I might add, but she picked up the thread and in an instant we were touching. I looked past Layla and observed Mark gazing upon us, motionless. I knew now just how much I matched his type. Long, dark hair, impassive. On my way in, I went to grab some kale and blueberries for the girls and found myself standing next to the fridge eating cold spaghetti. Sometimes, when I'm alone at night, this strange, clenching nausea overcomes me. Sometimes I cry a bit, but I can never really pin down why I felt sad. I just felt so sad. And as I was standing there, that feeling overcame me and I started to cry. With spaghetti in hand, I fled to my room to see my girlies. Girlies, I said as I fled through the bedroom door. Earth was on her wheel and heaven was in her hut as usual. I reached in to grab her, but when I touched her, she wasn't moving. I stroked her a bit, but she wasn't breathing. I didn't know what to do, so I decided that I would call Mark, half expecting him to berate me for burdening him with my emotions, but all he had to say was that his cat died when he was 5. Such an asshole. Heaven was really kind to me. Heaven was really kind to me. The next morning, I dug an old shoebox up to put her in. The vet said it was the avocado pit that killed her. Toxins. Congestive heart failure. I fumbled with the lid on the box and brought her out to the garden. Placed her in the ground, stood up, and breathed. Just as I heard Mark whistling.
Is going to be something that you, if you're in 210, a little more familiar with. It's going to be an informative presentation, so it'll look a little bit more like you're used to doing or seeing. So our next speech is going to be an informative speech by freshman Jordan Blythe, and she is from West Chapel, Florida.
The president had no respect for Haiti. To him, it was plain to see the country was a basket case. Political unrest, filthy, incapable of handling its own affairs. While there was no doubt his assessment of Haiti was racially coded, the president was ready to flex the country's muscles abroad, to finally fulfill the mission that fit his motto, America first. The United States would invade Haiti. The president was Woodrow Wilson, and the year was 1915. Cut to 2018. In July, Haiti was set ablaze in protest of a 38% hike in fuel prices. CNN on July 8th focused its reporting on the plight of missionaries who were trapped, urging U.S. diplomats and tourists to shelter in place against rioters looters, and violence. Just 6 months before that, President Trump called Haiti a shithole country, and his defenders claimed that while he might have been rude, he was also right. If you ask even a kinder American why Haiti is indeed so poor, you'll pretty much get the same few stock guesses. Natural disasters, government corruption, bad luck. To rail against poverty in Haiti, to argue that it is some naturally occurring reality, ignores one very important player, the United States of America. And we weren't just a passive player. We didn't just withhold aid or not help fix infrastructure. Rather, we implemented, according to the London School of Economics and Political Science on April 12, 2018, the most racist economic policy in history. So, let's examine how Haiti got here with our help. By reconsidering the Haitian Revolution, debt that ensued, and implications for Haiti's economy. Because if Haiti is burning now, it's about time we indict ourselves as the arsonists. Understanding what the tag team of America and France did to Haiti almost requires that we suspend our disbelief, because our combined actions are so vile, they almost seem like fiction. Let's begin at the end of the Haitian Revolution with France's original sin, then turn to the US's anti-heroic response. First, after 12 years of fighting for freedom, the people of Haiti defeated Napoleon and gained their independence from France in 1804. France was pissed. Not only did they lose out on a colony for their white citizens, but they directly lost out on revenue from Haitian slavery. They didn't know how to deal. The Root on July 9, 2018 explained that 20 years after formerly enslaved Haitians liberated themselves, France sent heavily armed warships back to the tiny island, this time demanding reparations for former French slave owners. Haiti, a nation of newly freed slaves, was extorted for 150 million francs, roughly equivalent to $21 billion today. This payment would be a staggering burden to any new nation, let alone a republic created and led by blacks who had risen up against the institution of slavery. Second, America found all of this quite worrisome. No, not the reverse reparations, but the Haitian Revolution itself. According to Forbes magazine on December 16, 2017, American slave owners thought that if their own slaves witnessed a nation of black people prospering after freeing themselves from bondage, they might get inspired. This might be why we let France's crime slide right past the Monroe Doctrine of 1823, which stated that any attempt by European power to oppress or control any nation in the Western Hemisphere would be viewed as a hostile act against the United States. So, at the exact moment when we should have intervened, calling foul on France's reverse reparations, demanding that they turn their warships around, we did the opposite. We co-signed, backing France's demand for the debt on an international stage, instructing the world to literally ignore Haiti's existence until it paid up. It wasn't until 1947, as the aforementioned Root reminds us, 2 years after America liberated the last concentration camp, 82 years after the Emancipation Proclamation, and 143 years after unshackling themselves, did the Republic of Haiti make its last payment toward independence debt. Let's dig deeper into the century and a half of crippling debt through both French and American loans. First, Haiti had paid off the original debt, the 150 million francs, by the 1880s. But sadly, they weren't even half finished with their balance, because every time Haiti couldn't make payments, they had to borrow from French banks, plunging them even deeper into poverty. As the years progressed, Haiti took out so many loans from France that they were not only paying off the reverse reparations, but loans and interest on top of those. According to Jacobin magazine in 2017, 80% of Haiti's national income went toward paying off external debt. These funds not only came from the government, but from voluntary contributions from Haiti's impoverished citizens themselves. The United States, meanwhile, was ready to expand. Fortune magazine on January 12, 2018 tells us that under the leadership of Woodrow Wilson, we annexed the Philippines, Hawaii, Guam, and Puerto Rico, and we invaded Honduras, Nicaragua, and Mexico. Haiti was next. In late 1914, U.S. Marines marched into the Haitian Reserve and took all of the gold they could find, equal to about $500,000, hauling it back to 111 Wall Street for safekeeping. It gets uglier. When the U.S. rewrote the Haitian Constitution, they included a clause that demanded that 40% of Haiti's income go to France and the United States for no good reason at all. And in the back half of debt repayment, Haiti wasn't even repaying France anymore. It was repaying an American bank that had bought all of Haitian debt from France, a bank that, according to the Washington Post on January 12, 2018, happened to be located at 111 Wall Street, the Citibank of New York, known today as Citibank. This story of Haiti, inextricably linked to the legacy of capitalism, slavery, and American greed, must serve as the lens we use to see Haiti today. Any unrest, corruption, poverty, or struggle in Haiti only exists within a context that seems like a worldwide collusion intent on making this nation suffer. And it is this context that informs two implications: historical vacuum and reparations. First, Haiti is the poorest nation in the Western Hemisphere, according to the World Bank's 2018 annual report. It is also a classic example of the failed nation state, with its misery treated as though it exists in a historical vacuum. And despite the fact that it clearly doesn't, this failed nation state rhetoric seeps into the way we talk about Haiti every time they suffer. Every protest, Haitian corruption. Every earthquake, lack of Haitian preparation. Every cholera outbreak, Haitian sanitation failure. Every whisper of U.S. immigration, a shithole country. After Trump's comments were vehemently condemned, Will Chamberlain, one of the organizers of last year's Deplorable, suggested on Twitter that Trump vehemently condemned the Haitian government for running a shithole country. We're quick to blame a nation for its own failure, but we rarely want to acknowledge our own role in making it fail. Finally, perhaps it's time for some reverse reparations. Remember, when Haiti won its independence in 1804, France charged them 150 million francs, damages to former French slave owners. Then Haiti had to borrow from France to pay back their masters. Then foreign pressure for debt repayment forced Haiti to borrow from the U.S., turning a double debt to France into a triple debt to us. One that, as we discussed, took 143 years to pay off completely. And every single one of these payments was patently illegitimate. Reverse reparations for their own unshackling. According to the aforementioned Jacobin, for the last 15 years, Haiti has asked France for $22 billion. Not even reparations for the centuries of enslavement it endured, but simply to have the money that was stolen from them returned. Of course, no one is likely to pay up, but every dollar of foreign aid sent to Haiti in the absence of repaying this debt rings hollow. If today's narrative about Haiti was new to you, that is almost certainly by design. The dominant narrative of Haiti as dirty and poor and its people as dangerous and corrupt conceals the truth of the United States' role in creating that narrative. The story of Haiti is the story of the United States. The story of Haiti is the story of us. It's time to start telling it.
All right, so our next event is going to be a program oral interpretation. It's going to look similar to the first one, but there's going to be multiple pieces. So what this is you take multiple genres of literature, poetry, articles, prose, film, stage, whatever it may be, that center on a certain theme, and you kind of splice them all, smash them all together in order to explore this theme or to make some type of argument. So, giving us her program oral interpretation is sophomore Bella Gomez from St. John, Indiana.
Yes.
All right, everyone, sit down, get some coffee, sit down. Now, I know I'm gonna catch some flack for saying this, but
I think it's time that we rolled out the red carpet for Steve. You all remember Steve, right? The one who liked to stand up during our staff meetings and masturbate in front of everyone. I know you, Brock Turner. Shining example of the American golden boy. White men look at you and see their son with his potential going to waste. Sure, Steve liked to take his dick out and play it like a banjo. But he is a supremely talented accountant. The world deserves to see his spreadsheets. Now, I know what you're all thinking. A masturbator hasn't made amends. He does not deserve redemption. A school teacher waits another day to see if his cancer will kill him soon. So to prepare for the medical bills, Walter White decides to cook meth. And we love him for it, showing us the white amidst the gray of tough choices. Who cares that he sent out an apology email where he didn't use the word sorry once? I think it's time that we brought Steve back to the office. Steve, everyone. A 2018 study published in the journal Nature Human Behavior found that when others commit wrongdoings, we often give them the benefit of the doubt. Empathy research further tells us that we are more likely to offer compassion and ultimately forgiveness when these wrongdoers look like us. And thus there is a forgiveness privilege problem, and white people are benefiting. That we somehow possess an inherent redemptive quality not afforded to others, where we are consistently treated like victims in crimes that we committed. So as white people, we must ask ourselves, who is not privileged enough to offer or receive this forgiveness? And when we do offer it, why are we truly doing it? So through the poetry, Brock Turner by Megan Kemple, O. Kavanaugh by Zach Hansen, and On Breaking Bad by Tyler Geiger. The prose, although he has made zero attempt to make any amends, it is time to bring Steve the Masturbator back to the office by Bob Balfob, and Picking Cotton by Jennifer Thompson Canino. A program exposing how self-involved we truly are. The police reports would show that around 3 a.m. a noise woke me. I looked to my left and I saw a man hovering above my mattress. He quickly jumped on top of me, jammed a knife against my throat, and raped me. But during those 20 minutes, I refused to let myself go numb or close my eyes because I wanted to live and make sure that he spent the rest of his days in hell. Walter White, a cautionary example of how good men break bad. Even when we come to hate him, we say to ourselves, poor Mr. White, sad man, sad teacher, sad patient, twisted by a blackness he could not see. That is not the only blackness left unseen. Switch Mr. White with a black man and see how the fandom wrinkles its nose. A white man can break. A black man is always already broken. Oh, Kavanaugh, you're the perfect mix of privilege, redemption, beady little eyes, rat face, and oh, affluenza. So when Don decided to appoint you when you got called out, all your toxic male privilege, white Bethesda Maryland buddies came running, screaming, crying. Boys will be boys. He was only 17. We need to protect him, but see, Brock, men of color see 3 months when they would have been looking at 30 years. Survivors feel their stitches ripped out each time your face flashes across the screen. You are not just you. You are the oil spill that lives in our stomachs, the spasms in our muscles from too much flinching, the lock in our jaws. When we're too scared to speak. I know you, Brock Turner. I knew who he was from the moment I saw him in the lineup at the police station, and eventually Ronald Cotton was found guilty. And I celebrated. Because I deserved it. I survived and I took that monster off of the street. Walter White, handled more tenderly than the hundreds of thousands of people sentenced to a slow, graphic rot by the meth he pumps out like Pez candies. $2.7 million tuned in for the Mad Men finale, $11 million for Dexter, $12 million for the end of both The Sopranos and Breaking Bad, all shows starring white men. All of them murderers. And we all love them for it. Ronald had been in prison for 5 years, and I loved every second of it. At night, when I said my prayers, I would ask God to watch over my family, and every night I would end those prayers by saying, "Dear God, please tonight have Ronald Cotton die. Please have him die. And that was my prayer every night for 5 years until one day Ronald wanted a DNA test. So I said, run the test. You don't forget that type of thing. I knew who did this to me. It was Brock Turner. You are not one rapist who got off easy. You are the 97% who never get convicted in the first place. The frat rose who get suspended after graduation because boys will be boys. I hear someone wants to give you a speaking tour so you can discuss the dangers of alcohol and promiscuity with teenagers. Oh, Kavanaugh, it's nice you get some protections, but what about those not afforded the same protections as a you and Don Don? The boys that cannot hide behind the excuses of, it was just horseplay, I was only 17, I grew out of it. Again, Brett, we know you were only 17, but you know what? So was Trayvon Martin, and he wasn't allowed to grow out of it. Michael Brown, 18, Emmett Till, 14, Tamir Rice, 12. None of them given a chance to ever grow out of it. Meanwhile, Brock victims like me struggle to make ends meet. There is a whole network full of schools willing to pay a convicted sex offender for how his story of rape is a side effect of alcohol or an easy mistake, and not a deliberate, vicious choice. That girls like me can deserve it. This is what scares me about you, Brock. The fact that you are such a small part of it that will soon be forgotten. What I hate about you, Brock Turner, is that people like you have no reason to change. So I said, run the test. It will show what I have said all along. He is a monster and he deserves to suffer. So they ran the test and they came to my house and they said, Jennifer, we were wrong. It's not Ronald's DNA. What was I to do? How can I apologize? Can I apologize? 2 years later, I waited for Ronald outside of a church, completely inadequate of how to express how sorry I was. He came into the room and stood in front of me. And he did the one thing that I could have never predicted. He said, Jennifer, I forgive you. I'm not upset with you. And during that conversation, I realized that the one person that I had prayed to die is the one person showing me how to love. This is the art everyone watches. We leave vibrating with anticipation at the chance to peer into worlds so like our own, where the silent majorities are trapped under dirt and where my whiteness ensures that I live to the end of my story. With everybody watching.
All right, our second to last last performance will be a persuasive speech. So again, something that you're probably a little more used to seeing. And so, giving us her persuasive speech from Noblesville, Indiana, freshman Abby Van Meter.
Yes.
Surgery is scary, and in April 2003, Zahara Heckscher, a patient at George Washington University Hospital, was scheduled to have an ovarian cyst removed. Shortly before her surgery, however, she learned of a medical educator practice that stopped her in her tracks. Apparently, medical students routinely practice pelvic exams on unconscious patients without their consent in the name of education. Heckscher reports to the Washington Post of May 10th, 2003, that she immediately took action, adding a note to her consent form and telling everyone she could verbally that she forbade anyone to perform a pelvic exam on her while she was under anesthesia. Heckscher had an opportunity that not many patients in this situation do. The opportunity to protect her body. According to the Post, in 2003, Heckscher and a growing number of activists were demanding that women should be informed about these pelvic exam lessons and be given